one of the first things I want to deal with today is to emphasize again, to emphasize again the critical nature of choice and focus on the subject of strategy. Choice, focus. In our lives, we must make choices. It's both a strategic concept and an economic concept. We are not infinite in our ownership or in our grasp of time and of all the other resources that make for consistent human living. So we must make choices. There's so many distractions out there. And even in my own personal experience, so many distractions, so many things you could possibly do. And I want to tell you that so many good things you could possibly do. There are many good things you could do. And one of the important things I want to tell you that, look, it's maybe a good thing. It may be a fantastic thing, but is it the right thing for you at this time? We must get to a point where we are very intentional about those choices. We simply cannot do everything. We must make deliberate choices, and we must align our choices with our long-term goals, and as entrepreneurs, as career people, and so forth. So today I'm going to spend just a few minutes to go through one of the elements of the strategy course, and that is the fundamental. Remember, the strategy course is the basic course you start with on the strategy club, and I'm just going to walk through some of the key elements of this particular lesson 5, which is called career choice, or strategy in career choice. Excuse me. I keep trying to make the emphasis that the way of thinking, the pattern of thinking, the kind of mindset we want to embrace in the world of strategy is that it is possible to apply the principles in many areas. And we've given examples a lot on business, and in this particular course we talk about strategy in career choice. The photo you see is the photo of Dr. Tomisin Fashina, who passed on just this year, and he was an important part of my career growth. He was the managing director of Infosys International while I worked there. I started this course with a story around my choices, the choices I was forced to make at some point in my career when major changes were beginning to happen in the organization. And I try to tell younger people that you don't have to wait for that point in your life where you are forced to make critical choices. You can think ahead, you can be proactive, you can plan your career from the beginning. You can learn from those who've gone ahead and make intentional choices about your career. You don't have to wait for the point at which your employer is forcing you to make the choice, either by letting you go or by making dramatic changes that don't favor you, or the industry is forcing you to make that change by dramatic shifts in what is important, emerging technologies, and so forth. You can be intentional. You can be proactive about where you are going with your career, because your career is a critical component of your life. That if you think about it, really, when I started my career, one of the companies I worked with, American, I just stayed with them like 3 months. I think it was called American Wireless. They didn't even pay at that time, and while the company was still being formed, we found out that there was a lot of politicking going on among those who are trying to kickstart the company. And I was having a conversation with, I think, if I remember her name well, Edem or Imem, something. And she said that you spend 8 hours a day, about 8 hours a day at your workplace. So you must select a workplace that is aligned with how you want your life to, to evolve, so to speak, in a sense, because you're going to be spending 2/3, if I may say so, of your life there every day or every working day. So it's important that, aside from the fact that they pay a lot of money, you must also think about the kind of environment you want to operate in. So in essence, I'm just saying that to say that your workplace, your choice of a career, they are critical choices about your life. So it makes sense to be intentional about planning it from the very beginning. Now, I had to make this choice at some point because of shifts that were happening in my workplace. In that context, in the context of that, it was basically a town hall meeting, and things had been building up to that point. And I had to make a certain choice. I had to choose. I had to look at what was going on. There were about 4 major projects that were going on. A lot of them promised better automation, better acceleration. Big data was happening at that time, I believe. So the ATM driver was being upgraded. The core banking was being upgraded. We're going to get automated database management, and I happen to be DBA and so forth. Yet, in the midst of all those changes that were supposed to automate our systems more effectively, we were also aggressively recruiting experts to deliver. So my question was, what were we going to do with these experts when the projects were over? What was the plan, and my MD responded saying that each employee should know that changes are coming and prepare for change. That is like what is happening now with AI. So we've seen it before. When there are dramatic shifts in the industry, it is expected that professionals know how to position themselves to not to lose out in the long term. At the same time, so it was a good answer from that perspective, even though the perspective I was asking from was the fact that I felt the organization was making inconsistent, incoherent decisions when you look at the big picture, because it was like a celebration that we are hitting 500 staff in the process. Yet we are looking at a situation where a lot of this stuff might not be needed in the next few years. So it was not, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. So, but in essence, the answer I got, what it basically said to me was, own your career. And I had to now begin to look inwards. And I want you to understand the context of my life at that time. At that time, I didn't have a master's degree or an MBA. At that time, I was so deep in the work I was doing. My life was in the office, back and forth, midnights, was doing shifts. I was hired as a SQL Server DBA, but I had to do a lot of Oracle DBA work. I had to do a lot of support work, and I was alone at that time as the SQL Server DBA. So, my whole time was consumed working. And this is the story of many support engineers. Before they realize that they have sold their whole lives to the work, they are getting to their 40s. And what that then happens, they now begin to look for fulfillment in other things, because they didn't realize that at the early stages of their career, particularly with the excitement of technical work. Excuse me once again. with the excitement of technical work, we don't immediately realize how much of our lives we are, sinking, so to speak, sowing, so to speak, investing, so to speak, in in the context in our organizations. It's important to work hard for your organization. It's also important to make a good balance between that and your own future as a person, as a professional, and whatever else you might be pursuing with your life, because you cannot recover time. And we keep saying this. We keep saying that you simply cannot recover time. So I had to do a lot of analysis and realize that there were a few things that I was now lacking in my life. I was aging. I had good experience, but like many of my peers, a lot of my experience was in that context: banking sector, SQL Server, Oracle, and in fact, I was even lacking some certifications, so to speak. So I was at the point where I really needed to accelerate, change the direction of my career, and I made choices from that point. This was somewhere around 2016, I believe, 2015, 2016. So at that point, I finally got my MBA, or somewhere, I think 2019, got my MSc 2023. So it's not like this thing I could not do these things. It's just that I had not taken the time to actually make the attempt, because of all the other things that were crowding my judgment and crowding my time, clouding my judgments and crowding my time. So I began the journey and finished it, I believe in 2019. Still getting old. I began the journey as well, and went on to seek out a role in enterprise architecture through a series of events. And I began to see, at that time when I was doing my MBA, I did reflect on the qualifications of a few of my seniors, and I said to myself, I am not too far from this. I'm not too far. I can do this. Right? And what I want you to take away from this, if you are in that space of a career professional, is take a moment, take a step back, and just ask yourself, where am I now? Where can I go from here? And what is possible for me? Because my growth in career is contextual, as with every other person. And the more important thing is making progress over becoming a perfect, ideal, high-flying, top executive professional, right? The main thing is, can you make some progress? And I want you to choose to make some progress from today. I appreciate you. I do have to run, so have a wonderful day ahead and decide to make some progress. Bye.